Plenty to debate on the Premier League football, though, from the weekend. Dean and Sue. Sue, good morning.
Good
Dean,
morning.
lovely to see you.
Good morning, yes. Thanks for that introduction.
Yeah, it's marvellous, marvellous. Right, OK, let's get into Manchester United. We will, of course, later on the football show, praise Tottenham for their performance, but let's start with United. It had been a bad week for them already. That goalless draw at Crystal Palace, Sue, and then the draw at home against FC Twente. Going into the game, how much did it feel like they needed a result in this one, and in the end they got the complete opposite?
Yeah, it felt like both managers needed a result. There was a little bit of heat on both of them, but especially, like, say, Manchester United and Ten Hag, because there's always so much scrutiny, and they're always, everything's highlighted, isn't it, when it's Manchester United. Looking back to the Crystal Palace game, the first half, they actually played well. They just couldn't score. Again, we looked at them last week where we were saying they were creating opportunities, they just couldn't score. But against Tottenham in particular in that first half, they were poor. They looked disjointed on and off the ball, just not playing as a team. You thought when they went to press, it was very much in ones. They weren't all going together collectively. And on the ball, they just looked so sloppy. Of course, it doesn't help when you go down to 10, but even with 11, they looked second best. And you think 3-0, it could have even been more. Onana made some brilliant saves, some misses from the Tottenham players as well. So, yeah, just a really poor performance individually and collectively from Manchester United.
Yeah, let's just pick up on one of those, Dean, because we will, of course, be debating the sending off in Ref Watch at 11 o'clock. But was the red card a red herring? Because United were struggling even 11 on 11, weren't they?
They were, but I think both Bruno Fernandes and the manager and their comments afterwards didn't skate around that. They didn't just hone in on that in particular. They knew that the first half was a pathetic performance. And when you're at home, as you are a Manchester United team, and you've got that amount of support all behind you, you need to know what you're doing. When you're up against the absolute elite of English football, you have to absolutely have an idea as players, as a group. Now, whether that is the manager not being able to get his points across, whether it's defensively or whether it's going forward, or whether it's motivation in terms of effort and desire, or whether it's the players themselves, and Sue's just mentioned, if there's just one or two that don't do the work and the right job and aren't at it mentally, you'll get picked apart. And that's what Tottenham did. Tottenham are in fantastic form, improved a lot already this season from last season under Ange Postecoglou. And it just looked like they were enjoying knowing exactly that they had the right ideas, they knew how they were playing, there was a genuine structure. I still haven't seen that from Manchester United, and he's been in the job a long time. And under him, I think they're a team of moments at best, but I don't see an improvement. You can see it in the performances, you can see it in the league table, you can see it in the -3 goal difference for a side like Manchester United, that there is no difference. And that's the big worry, because he's got plenty of players now that he's clearly had a big hand in bringing to the football club.
They're 7 points so far as their joint fewest after 6 games of a Premier League season. You love a stat.
I love a
on
stat,
a Monday
yeah,
morning. So there we go. Let's throw the first one at you. I want to pick up on what Dean was saying, because our injuries now are red herring, because Tottenham went into it without Heung-min Son, without Odegaard and without Richarlison. The only United player, really, Luke Shaw, is still absent. And all the way through, Ten Hag has been saying, judge me when I've got them all fit. And apart from Luke Shaw, they're all fit.
Yeah,
or all available for selection in some way.
They are, and I think that's the problem last season. That's what we were saying. We were saying, well, OK, you sort of feel for Ten Hag because he can't play the way that he wants to play because he's got so many players injured, in particular in the back line, the midfield area. So it was constantly changing, so he couldn't get any sort of rhythm. Whereas now you're thinking, well, they're all back fit. They're his players. He's had, 5 transfer windows, so he's bringing in the players that he wants. Everybody's fit apart from Luke Shaw. And we're still not seeing the progression. We're still seeing the same errors that we were seeing last season, whether that's, not finishing off the chances, whether that's getting into the final third and not finding the pass, whether that's being too easy to play through, too easy to be countered against. We've seen that again and again. So things have to change and they have to start changing, because I think Manchester United fans, there was a lot of them that have really stuck by Ten Hag because they don't want to keep seeing change. They don't want to keep seeing another manager go and another one come in, and it's all got to happen again. But I think even now, those supporters of Ten Hag are starting to wear thin. They're starting to be frustrated with what they're seeing on the pitch.
Because, Dean, the last time United lost consecutive league games at Old Trafford, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked shortly after. That was November 2021. So we're in perilous position. No one wants to see a manager sacked. We'd rather they kind of pull a rabbit out of the hat here. But is there a rabbit and is there a hat for Erik Ten Hag?
Well, he seems to have many of them. I know that, but it's no secret that the club were looking elsewhere in the summer, and he looks like a man under severe pressure all the time. And I think
he's got the hat.
He has got
Look,
the hat.
He's got the hat. We just need the rabbit.
And I just think he did go through a period last season where some of his comments made him look slightly deluded, because we're all watching it. And he's really trying to pick up the positives. He's really trying to keep on side with the players and keep that positivity within his group. But even more so, even at the start of this season, it looks like he knows that's wrong. You know, he's not an unintelligent man. He's done very well in his coaching career. His Ajax team was superb. So he'll watch the games. He'll understand what's the problem. Probably his biggest worry is, why can't I motivate these players to do the small details that are so crucial at this level that all of a sudden just drop on his lap. So, yesterday you were like, wow, that performance from sort of nowhere. They've had a reasonable start to the season, and he must be thinking, well, what's the next thing I've got to try to get the best out of these players?
Yeah, because, Christian Eriksen, I think, came out with some... There have been comments, especially after the Twente game, that the players weren't hungry enough. That is hugely concerning, because they're playing for Manchester United.
That's worrying, because that's the minimum, isn't it, requirement when you're a footballer going onto the pitch, is that you always give 100%. Sometimes your passing might be sloppy, sometimes you might miss-time things, you might not have the best game, but the least you can do is try hard. So I think if players are coming out, senior players are coming out like that is a worry. But I think when you look at Manchester United, you look at they're obviously doing things off the field. They're implementing a structure to make sure that things are better off the field, hoping that will then go down to what's happening on the field. And I think going back to what you were saying about, they actively went out and looked for a new manager in the summer. They spoke to managers, that, as far as we know. They then decided to stick with Ten Hag. And, I've been listening to things that he's been saying, that there's a good communication between him and the people above, the ownership. So that's the worry, that he's brought these players in. Like, a lot of those players are his players, and he's got a good relationship with them. So surely they must be trying for him, because if you've got a good relationship with a manager, you do try it. It's hard for us to see it, when we're watching them, we're saying, well, it looks a bit lacklustre. It looks like they're not playing with intensity. But they know this manager, they've got a good relationship. Why is it not happening? So is it something else? Is it something structurally? Is it something that they don't understand? Is it maybe the pressure of playing for Manchester United? I don't know. It's hard to put your finger on it.
Yeah, I'm looking at examples in my mind, thinking about them, and you don't want to have a look in my mind. No, that's very frightening. But I'm thinking of, in particular, Jadon Sancho, who looks very happy at Chelsea now, and keeps tweeting about, or social media, about how happy he is at Chelsea. So, and I'm wondering about Erik Ten Hag, whether there's something missing, the connection between him and the players. Just tell me, you've been at big football clubs with big egos or big personalities, or how much of a manager's job now is about micromanaging each player as well as the tactics?
I think it's even more important now than it's ever been to make sure that you have the right relationship with the players and are able to get your points across, and for them to want to go out and do it. Now, I really did find that as I went up the levels in English football, the higher I got, the more opinionated we are as players. We think we know. because we're top players, we think we know what the manager and the way this team should play and how to get the best out of the players that we've got in the squads. And if as players, you're on the training pitch every day and you do not think that what the manager's trying to do is right, we're not easy to deal with. We're not. We will get together and we will disagree with what he's trying to do. If certain things he'll say, we'll pick up on it. And if you form little groups, and that can happen very easily, it's very then difficult to have a full group that's back with the manager if you've got breakaway groups, which I don't know because I'm not in there, but from my experience, that is what I feel is the issue at Manchester United. Is I think there'll be certain players that are just not having him as a manager. They're just not, or as a person. Because too often, there's too many players that you watch and you go, you just don't care. You don't, because you would try harder, you would make sure that you're trying to implement what the manager's asking of you, and they're not.
How do you get them to care?
Well,
because they're playing for Manchester United in the Premier League. You would think, an outsider looking in, wow, OK, I'm going to care. It doesn't matter who's in charge, I'm going to care.
I know, but we are complicated in terms of, a lot of the players think they're the best and think, well, it can't be me because I'm the best, and if you don't agree with the manager and what he's trying to do, then it is really hard. And that's why it's so important the manager has this great rapport with the players and gets everyone on side, because we will go and bicker and you do go behind the manager's back and talk about the manager all the time. So you're under such immense pressure as a manager to constantly have these top players on side.
But that's the thing that I don't get, is the fact that he's brought a lot of these players in. So he must surely have a relationship with them. If a manager brings me in, you think, right, I've got a good relationship, I want to work with him. So then, if you go through the team yesterday, there's Rashford was obviously still there, wasn't he? Bruno Fernandes. You could go through a couple of the, obviously the big characters, big players, but a lot of them, you go through the back line, the goalkeeper, the midfield, Ugarte brought him in, young players. Surely they would want to be giving everything, showing that real passion to play for the manager, to also play for Manchester United. So that's the bit that is confusing me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he made a big call with Onana, didn't he? Managerial, he's brought in, De Ligt. You go through that list. I mean, I guess the big one that he brought in that hasn't worked is Anthony, and there's fingers constantly pointed in that direction. Why hasn't that worked? A lot of money spent for him, but you don't know what's going on behind it. OK, if you're Erik ten Hag, what you want is a really quiet week with just a build-up to a simple game at the weekend. Porto away in the Europa League on Thursday before Aston Villa on Sunday. How tricky does this look?
Incredibly, and I think that's probably been his biggest strength, I would say, is Ten Hag. He's been able to produce a performance, a result from some of the lowest points in his Manchester United managerial career. And I'm not sure why. I think because they feel like a team of moments. It wouldn't surprise me if they enjoy going away to Porto and those players can perform, go away to Aston Villa and perform. It could work the other way. If they set up the way they did against Tottenham and the same level of effort and desire, if you don't have that at the start against these top sides, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. So it's a big job for him. And when you've only got 2 or 3 days to kind of go back into the players today and get it right, does he go in and does he hammer them? Or does he go in and try and keep that positivity that he seems to have within himself? That's the big question for him this morning.